Hi everyone and welcome back. Welcome to my new playlist. And in this playlist, I'm going to talk about cloud, everything about cloud. So recently I put a few playlists. One playlist was about AWS Cloud Practitioner mock test. So it was like a nice 65 questions quiz. You can actually, if you are going for the examination, then you can actually just have a look onto that mock test that will help you to get a certification. Then another playlist where I was covering AWS serverless with serverless framework, where I covered AWS serverless component, SQS, SNS, Lambda, API gateway, and DynamoDB, all these things. Now, this is another playlist which I will be starting with what I'm going to talk in future playlist. Okay, so my major focus is to get the audience familiar with the cloud, and my major focus area is AWS and then Azure. So I'm not going to talk about the certification things and how to get certifications and all, but yes, covering those certification syllabus, we can actually talk about those set of services. It can be Azure or it can be AWS, right? Like Azure fundamentals, right? So we just need to see, okay, first of all, what all things are required for getting the certification of Azure fundamentals, what all knowledge, and we are going to cover that in a separate playlist. Similarly, after just like covering this basic cloud practitioner course, my next target is to cover the solution architect developer associate solution architect associate course, and I will be just choosing all those set of services which are required to get certifications, all these set of services which are like more than 25, 20 or 25 plus. We'll be talking about these services to get more familiarity, and that may also help you directly or indirectly in getting the certifications, either developer associate or solution architect associate. And similarly, there is a Azure fundamental course which is equivalent to the AWS practitioner course, which talks about the basic fundamentals of all the services which Azure provides. And when it comes to the AWS practitioner certification, it also talks about all the services as a whole. You should be at least familiar with all the service or all the components of the AWS. Similarly, like this is the diagram which talks about AWS services regarding the data, developer services, compute services, integration. All these services are integrated into the few categories like compute, storage, networking, right? So in these segments, these major services are divided. Like we have EC2 Lambda as a compute, then we have a storage SQS, sorry, for the storage we have like S3, we have EBS, EFS, and many more. Similarly, for networking we have AWS VPC, right, subnetting, load balancer, and all these things. Similarly, Azure has its own things, right? In networking we have app gateway, VPN gateway, and all these different components, right? So based on what we are targeting, my target is to at least cover these fundamentals on Azure. So it's like AZ900 certification which talks about the Azure basic fundamentals. And then we have already covered AWS serverless, we have already covered the AWS cloud practitioner. So we can start talking about solution architect associate, which talks about these many set of services. And once we are familiar, then we can also decide the architecture of our application, what all AWS components we may need for writing any kind of application which is going to be deployed on AWS, right? So that is my the main focus. So what I will do is I will start with AWS. I'm going to start with AWS Solution Architect Associate, and parallelly I will also create another playlist which talks about Azure fundamentals. Okay, so we'll start with very basics, creating the account, just getting familiar with the Azure console, Azure services, which are divided into compute services, compute, storage, and networking. And it's like saying, like we have AWS, now we have Azure. There may be some other cloud vendor or cloud provider, but these are two more popular these days. Azure is also now getting popular Now you can have actually developer credits, you get your accounts for the Azure, you start exploring for the services which Azure provides. Okay, so stay tuned. I will be posting two separate playlists, one for the Azure fundamentals, second for the solution architect associate course on AWS.